you'd have this like the color issues of like the 50s and 60s and 70s color pictures. They were kind of faded and it didn't look right. The newer ones have these nice bright pictures, but any plant you take, well, I don't care if it's a dandelion, if it's growing in poor soil, in hot, dry weather, it's going to look completely different. I mean, almost completely different, like 80% different from the same plant growing in, where I live in the mountains, lush, rich soil, cool temperatures. I mean, the mountains is going to be 4 times bigger than it would be in, say, the sand hills. The leaves are going to be lush and full. They won't even have the same shape as the same dandelion growing in, a side of a driveway in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I mean, it's going to look entirely different. So you have to understand that when you take a picture of a plant, it can be a perfectly accurate ID of that plant. But depending on environmental conditions, water, soil conditions, etc., there's so many things that can affect it. That plant can look entirely different. So it was a constant frustration for me as a kid in my teens to go out with the field guides. It was even worse for mushrooms. So we'll get into that in a minute. But to try to use these field guides to identify plants, that's why I came to really like the Peterson field guide, because instead of pictures, it would have line drawings and it would tell you the characteristics of the plant. Like say you're looking at the mint family, you look at square stems, alternate leaves, and a fragrant aromatic scent. And a mint's a mint, right? Take the allium, the onion family. If it looks like an onion, smells like an onion, it's an onion. If it does not smell like an onion, it could be a very, very poisonous plant. These are like the common sense things I had to learn on my own. And honestly, I took a lot of risks I shouldn't have. I have eaten poisonous plants and poisonous mushrooms, and thank God I haven't died, but I have had like diarrhea for 3 days and vomiting. I mean, seriously, I have made a mistake, those mistakes. So I wanted to write a cookbook for foraging, not a field guide. Okay, There's not a single picture in this book. There's not a single drawing in this book. I want you to get a good field guide like the Peterson, Botany in a Day by Thomas Elpel. And now we have this incredible benefit of cell phone apps. You can get an app that will do plant ID. I recommend getting 3 of them and getting, a second and third opinion on every plant. That is something I would have just, I would have spent all the money I had on that when I was, 15 years old. That was not available. Those cell phone apps are almost as good as a mentor when it comes to plants. I still say fungi, mushrooms are a little more tricky. So, as this is a spring book, and most mushrooms really come in summer, fall, even early winter, I only included one major mushroom. It's the morel. That is the main mushroom of spring, and it's so easy to identify. And I tell you how, but still, I want you to double check it. And so, understanding that, I then thought, well, how do I tell someone what to look for? Without pictures, without drawings and all that. And the easiest thing really is to classify it by time of year. The edible wild plants, the forage plants that come in spring are entirely different than those you'll harvest in summer and fall for the most part. I mean, there are a few like, blackberries, raspberries. You might get the leaves and shoots in the spring, but you'll get the berries in the fall. I mean, obviously, nuts and berries are going to come in later in the year. But when you know when that plant is coming into harvest, if you have a description of the color of the flowers, where it's supposed to be growing, like ramps, my favorite wild edible, Ramson's wild, some people say they're wild leek, some people say they're wild garlic, some people, who knows, they're an allium. I find ramps on generally a north to or western facing slope by a creek. And I give you the description of the plant, and you sniff it, and it smells like garlic, and you know you got a ramp, right? Otherwise, it could look identical. You could have a picture of ramps, and this happens to many people, without any other, I mean, just using a field guide, you could end up eating lily of the valley. Looks identical in the spring to ramps. Lily of the valley has a digitalis-like effect, which can slow your heart rate to the point that if you ate enough, it would stop it. It would kill you. So I said, I'm going to do a wild edibles cookbook for spring. It's going to be a series. I'll do another one for summer, another one for fall. I'm excited about this. Okay, this is the way I cook. This is the way I spend a lot of time in the woods. This is a huge part of my diet, and I think for a prepper, it would absolutely be essential. This is food, okay? Free food that God gave us. It's all around us, and it can be as common as dandelions and plantain, burdock, wild roses, violets, or, it can be a little more rare. And I've got a lot, actually, of great wild edibles here. Some you might even want to grow in your garden, like daylilies. Daylilies are a common landscaping plant. They have little tubers that are like potatoes, and the flowers, you can pick them daily. They'll come right back, and they can be eaten like squash blossoms. Most people don't even look at this as food, and it's actually almost ubiquitous. Clovers, cleavers, I mean, so many things. Even the leaves of like Japanese maple, the ornamental trees that people plant. They're really nice. They have a sort of a tart, kind of lemony flavor, kind of used in Japanese cooking. You could throw them in a salad. You can, throw them in a soup. So many things. So many things. I mean, from poke salad to, I don't even know, shepherd's purse, of course, wild lettuce. I mean, nettles. So a lot of these are some of the most nutritious foods there are. And I use my cooking background to tell you how to cook the plants, because it's one thing, a lot of wild plants, they have stronger flavors than we're used to. I mean, our ancestors have spent thousands of years breeding the bitterness out of wild lettuce to give us iceberg. The original plant looks nothing like iceberg lettuce, but it's the same plant. It's just been bred, hybridized, turned into a more mild, sweet lettuce that, you would not even recognize the two as being related. Well, I give you some cooking tips so that you can cook plants that taste like asparagus, spinach, salad greens. I give you soup recipes, casserole recipes. Oh, so many. There's several plants that have those nice tuberous roots like Jerusalem artichokes and such. You can use them like potatoes. I mean, roasted meats and a lot of really good fish recipes, because like I said, I'm by no means a vegan. I really enjoyed writing this book. Okay, now one thing maybe I haven't mentioned, I got a job writing for a magazine a couple months ago, Homestead Kitchen magazine. You probably read it. It's very big among preppers, and the lady I work with, my editor, said, can you recommend some books on foraging? I said, well, yeah, I'm going to recommend Peterson Field Guide. I'm going to recommend Thomas Elpel's Botany in a Day. I'm going to recommend you don't buy about 90% of the foraging books that are available until you've gone through them, and then each one's a compliment. It's fine. Wonderful. And I happen to be writing this cookbook. She said, okay, well, the April issue is due January 1. Can you get this book done for me very quickly, and we'll include it in the magazine? I'm like, oh, that's fantastic, but it's going to take me another 2 months to write the book. And then I thought, well, okay, I'm going to just go ahead and put like 8, 9, 10 hours a day into get this thing finished. Won't have time to edit it, just, get it knocked out, get it ready for publication, and send it in. And I thought I had. I mean, by Christmas, I had gotten the book written, and it's, I think it's pretty good. The recipes are solid. I mean, this is the way I actually eat, I love wild food. I attribute my great-grandparents living all to be around 100 and even more than 100 years old to, that great diversity of diet, which included a lot of wild food. So my girlfriend says to me, you're dyslexic, right? And I'm like, yes, I know I'm dyslexic. I work around it. She says, somebody needs to proofread this book before it goes to print. And I'm like, all right, well, uh, she volunteered, and I was like, oh, that's great. About a week later, she sends me back something with like 350 corrections. So I cannot take all the credit for this book. It was a very special young lady that really put a lot of effort into it. And between the two of us, we came out with something really good. And she also happens to be a professional chef and baker with, having been to culinary school and all that. So I think I can say the recipes are well vetted. I think you're going to like these a lot. So the book is the SPring Foraging Cookbook by Judson Carroll, of course. It is available right now on Amazon. You can get it in print. You can buy it from me as a PDF, only $9.99, and I'll send it to you. You can ask me any questions. You got my email address. You're good to go. You want a paperback copy? Totally understand. As I always say, Amazon is not my preference, but right now it is the only option for print on demand. So the SPring Foraging Cookbook by Judson Carroll. I think you're going to absolutely love this book. Perfect for a survival situation. Even better for a homesteading situation where you got, a little wild area, some weedy areas. You can kind of peruse and look around, see what's growing, and you can complement your diet with all kinds of nutrient-dense wild foods, basically all of which have medicinal value. Seriously, and I include the medicinal uses of each of these as well. So check it out if you like. I think it would be a very worthy addition to your bookshelf, and it's fun for me because like I feel like I started this road before I even was conscious of what I was doing. But essentially, in writing this book and the next few I'll write, I'll do one on summer foraging and probably combine fall and winter together, obviously. Kind of fulfilling a lifelong dream, from when I was like 12 or 14 years old, when I found a copy of Yule Gibbons Stalking the Wild Asparagus in the library. And I remembered him from the Grape Nuts commercials and such. And it's just like, man, I would so love to do that, when I grow up. Well, I guess maybe I've finally grown up. Oh, well, yeah, I guess I have finally grown up, whether I want to admit to it or not. All right. The tree of the week is Alianthus altissima, tree of heaven. You're probably familiar with this. Like I said, it's kind of a weedy tree. It was used a lot in landscaping, say between the 1920s and 1950s, and it kind of got out. It's naturalized in my region. It's not native. Miss Grieve, the great British herbalist of the 1930s, tells us that tree of heaven is used as an antispasmodic, a cardiac depressant, and astringent. It does have a very strong effect on the heart. Well, I wouldn't say very strong. It's not like digitalis, but like hawthorn. Not as strong as lily of the valley, actually. Lily of the valley is actually, while it can certainly be poisonous in large amounts, far easier to use than foxglove or digitalis in its wild or even garden-grown state. I would say tree of heaven would be closer really to bugleweed, and y'all know how much I love bugleweed. I've talked extensively about bugleweed at Juga reptans. The effect produced let's see. It was used at least in the 1930s to rid dogs of intestinal worms. Would probably work the same way in humans. Don't know if it's really been extensively tested for that purpose. I think yes, memory says it was used for that purpose in the 1800s, around the Civil War and such. However, she states that the resin purges, but rarely acts as an anthelmintic. And anthelmintic is something that would actually